Hi everyone and welcome back to another episode of Saturdays with Dad. This is the last episode in our series of the decade rundowns, if you want to call it that. So today we'll be going into the 2010s. Do you have anything to say before we start?
Yeah, this will be the last of the videos containing albums of the different decades and everything. What I propose to do is at the end of the video, we will be announcing a little quiz, and the quiz will be revealed at the end of this video, so just watch this space. But the 2010s for me really is for me much more eclectic than any other decade. I mean, I went through the albums that were released and what we've got in 2010, and there's a lot of different stuff in, you know, like whether the 70s we have the psychedelia, progressing on to the prog rock era of the 70s, going into the more, and country rock, and then going to the more sort of electronic era of the 80s, the more reversing to the sort of like guitar band sound of the 90s, plus the advent and coming of modern day progressive rock
In the 2000s.
which then hit in a big time into the 2000s. So we're going to have a lot of fun now in the 2010s and just see what you guys think.
Alright, so let's just start with the year 2010.
Yeah.
Here's the first album we have.
So this is my Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye West. I'm not particularly a big fan of modern day rap music. Maybe a little bit in
Here and there.
here and there from the States. Certainly not the sort of stuff that comes out here in the UK. But the thing that interests me about this album is that Kanye West explores all sorts of different genres, whether it's soul or funk, or in fact progressive rock.
Well, he sampled the King Crimson track 21st Century Schizoid Man in, I think it's the song Power.
Yeah, and he also samples Black Sabbath as well. I think he samples one of the War Pigs. I know probably it sounds to a lot of people as incredibly sacrilegious, but actually is very well crafted. And I feel that this album is such a great album, it has to be in there, definitely. So this is my Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye West. So the next album coming up is probably one of my favourite albums of the whole of the decade, and it starts the decade. So this is The Queen of Denmark by John Grant. He made this album with a Texan band called Midlake, and the musicianship obviously is very, very good, but the songs are so strong and his voice is so great. This is just almost like some of the great people that have gone past, like John Martin and Tim Hardin, Tim Buckley, Jeff Buckley. It has sort of that feel about it, but it explores so many dark avenues, and it's so autobiographical, and it's just so wonderfully crafted and written that this is just simply a must be in the list album. So this is The Queen of Denmark by John Grant.
Alright, next into 2011, I think. Yeah 2011.
Okay, we're now into back into sort of progressive rock era. So with the advent of, with the demise of Porcupine Tree, Stephen Wilson decided to go possible in many different directions. One of the earlier albums that he made was this Grace for Drowning. This is different from Porcupine Tree in the sense that it's got an almost Beach Boysy melodic feel with this, and it's just, again, wonderfully crafted and played. Just incredibly strong songs from an incredible musician. As I say, this one is sort of, to call it easy listening would be to denigrate it, but it's not. It's better than that. It's wonderful and melodic and ambient as well, Neve. This is a really, really, really great album. So this is Stephen Wilson's Grace for Drowning.
Now moving into 2012, the year of the Olympics.
Yeah. And not only the year of Olympics, but the year of the final touch of the Mars Volta. I think with Tool and Dream Theater and Porcupine Tree, the leading lights to me of the modern progressive music. A lot of people, and quite rightly so, would say they're better albums like Die Laust or Francis the Mule, or, you know, Amputecture, or the Bedlam and Goliath. And they sort of think, oh, they could have copped out here, but there's some wonderful songs here. Yes, there's not a lot of the sort of intense guitaring you had in the early days of the Volta, when you had not just Omar Rodriguez Lopez, but you also had John Frusciante as well, who were just blitzing the whole place alive, with this wonderful, crazy mayhem of Latin music, jazz, heavy rock, doom-laden metal in many ways. Just everything was going thrown into the frying pan with this one, with the Mars. But this one's a bit more sort of, it's almost Radioheady in many. There's a couple of tracks that are very Radioheady, and also Beach Boysy. Sorry about keep going on about it, but generally a much more ambient album. Cedric's voice is much more to the fore. I actually think probably out of all the albums that the Mars Volta made, this is the one where I think Cedric's voice is just wonderful. And so this is Nocturne Decay by the Mars Volta. Back to my southern rock roots. And the lads from Georgia, Blackberry Smoke. Blackberry Smoke we saw just before lockdown with Tedeschi Trucks in Wembley. To me, are the best modern day southern rock band. And if you like that, if you like the sort of things like Leonard Skinner, and if you like, you know, the greatness that is the Allman Brothers, and you'll like this kind of music. It's beautiful and it's subtle in not an obvious way, but it's just wonderful. And this, I think, is possibly the best album they made. This is the Whippoorwill, and it's got some great stuff on here. One Horse Town, which I just adore, and they played that live. It's fantastic. And the Shaking Hands with the Holy Ghost, that is amazing. To me, this is their best album. That is their best studio album. So this is what the Whippoorwill by Blackberry Smoke.
2013 now.
One of the best albums in the 2000s. One of the greatest albums of all time. This is The Raven That Refused to Sing by Stephen Wilson. I could use up the whole of this for an hour going on about this album, but it's just so wonderful. I mean, I really love Grace for Drowning, but there's something so profound and brilliant about this album, and he's surrounded by great musicians in this, and you know, for the actual track, The Raven That Refused to Sing, is just wonderful. It's loosely based on the Edgar Allan Poe book, but I mean, all the stuff here it's just brilliant stuff. Luminol, which starts the album, is just wonderful. But I mean, the actual one of the great, and I'm including all the stuff from Genesis and ELP that I love, one of the truly great progressive albums of all time, this. and in the actual track, The Raven That Refused to Sing, it's up there with the likes of Thick as a Brick and things like that with me. It's wonderful. So this
quite
is the...
quite a high honour.
I think so. But I don't give that out lightly. It's just that I think that this is so wonderful. I really do think this. That I just put it, for me, I put it up in the pantheon of the great progressive rock groups of the 70s. So this is The Raven That Refused to Sing by Stephen Wilson.
Right, next we're going into 2014. So this is our starting point.
Ooh, this is the last album of Fish that you're going to see. This is Fuego. I think it's their best album of the 2010s. I've heard the new album, which is pretty good as well. For the love of me, I forgot the name of it. But it's just that's a great album. But I have to put this one, and this has got some great stuff in here. Halfway to the Moon, the 555. This is a really good album, and it's really swamped by all the albums that this great band have made before. But I think it holds it up with the other albums as well. So this is Fuego by Fish. Before I go to the next album, I've suddenly remembered what that album by Fish, the latest one, is Sigma Oasis, and that's a really good album. But yeah. I digress now.
Alright, next one.
So we go back into the sort of the prog theme again with the Swedish band Opeth, and this is Pale Communion, and this is a completely different album to anything that Opeth have done before. I think these are the dying. I just think, well, there's no metal in this whatsoever. It's just completely progressive rock, which, as I say, this is the sort of thing I like. I preferred. I mean, Blackberry Park was the name?
Blackwater Park.
Sorry, Blackwater Park was a complete different thing. But this later Opeth I really like, and this is a wonderful album, Pale Communion. There's some good stuff here. I mean, River I love, and also the track Goblin, which is, just by the sound, the name of the tracks, you can see the turn that Opeth have taken, and it's, fantastic keyboards, great singing, and Michael Ackerfeld's guitar is just wonderful as well. So this is Pale Communion by Opeth. So this, I'm afraid, with Neve, is not going to be one of her favourite albums of all time. But as you all know, that not only do I like West Coast music and bands like The Dead, We're Not Worthy, also loved things like the New Riders, Commando Cody and everything like that. That's not to say that the String Cheese Incident is strictly a country rock band. There is obviously the influences there, and they're very experimental. But they made an album, this one here, which I like a lot, Song in My Head. There's some great stuff. I mean, when I say about country rock, I mean, Colorado Blue Sky is fantastic, or Bluebird Sky, should I say, and Betray. And then it just goes from complete country rock to a darker feel with Betray the Dark. But I think they're a really great band. They're completely unknown in this country, but they're pretty big. They're from Colorado as well, and with all their influences, you can possibly, if you hear this album, understand why I like this album so much. So this is Song in My Head by the String Cheese Incident. So we're now, midway through the decade?
Yep, 2015.
Lovely.
So here's the first one.
Government Mule. I love Government Mule. They do all sorts of stuff. There could be Blackberry Smoke on one track, and then there'll be, Toots and the Maytals in the next minute. They do everything. They cover a load of bands. They're so versatile and everything like that. And you know, I have to say that this one here, this album, which is, it's almost prog this, because it's got such a heavy John Scofield, the jazz drummer on this.
Okay.
It's just, it's very experimental, and if you like jazz, well, I'm sure you do, because if you're a prog fan you'll tend to like jazz. You'll like this a lot, and this is, to me, this is Government Mule at their very finest. And obviously John Scofield is such a brilliant guitarist as well. So this one here is, this is Skull Mule, and this is Government Mule with John Scofield. So we're going from a completely different angle here now. This is one of the newer, very popular acts worldwide. This is the Australian guy, Tame Impala. And this is
Currents.
This is Currents, his album. I was introduced to this by Neve.
And I was introduced to it by Johan.
Yeah. And again, it's a very clever album. He does. It's almost the new millennium's Mike Oldfield, in the sense that he basically plays all the instruments, produces the album himself. And there's lots of good stuff. It's very ambient. It's
electronic,
and it's electronic music, which I love, which we both love, and it's well worth listening to. And it's a very good album indeed. So this album is Tame Impala, Currents.
Right, going into 2016 now.
So I talked earlier about Blackberry Smoke and the Tedeschi Trucks band, so it comes as no surprise that there will be a Tedeschi Trucks album in this as well. So this is Let Me Get By. Derek Trucks, you know, we all go on about brilliant guitar. He really was a child prodigy. He is the nephew of the great drummer from the Allman Brothers, Butch Trucks. And his legacy via the Allman Brothers is complete. He was playing on stage with them at the age of 14, I believe, 13, 14 album. He has almost got the spirit of Dwayne put into him. And he met and then subsequently married a fantastic guitarist in her own right, Susan Tedeschi. They formed the Tedeschi Trucks band. I mean, I can go through all the brilliant musicians there are, and they are fantastic. They're so tight, they're brilliant. She has got the most amazing voice, and she's an incredible guitarist. Had it not been for the fact that she's married to one of the great guitarists, she would just be outstanding in every single field. And this one here, my favourite song on this one is the actual opener, Anyhow, which has got a brass section in it, which just sends shivers down my spine. And this is fantastic. And the great thing about Tedeschi Trucks is they explore not just that kind of soul, funk, rock kind of sound, but they explore sort of the Indian mystic sound, like Derek makes his SG sound like in a sitar almost, and that is really interesting as well. So there's a lot of stuff in there. So this is the Tedeschi Trucks band, and this is Let Me Get By. Great album. Opeth.
Again.
The Sorceress, this is. Again, I won't go on too much, but obviously there's no traces really of metal in this whatsoever. I think this album is one of my favourite of the 2010s. It explores all sorts of different feels and different avenues. And this album actually sounds like Jethro Tull.
All right.
So there's so many bits in here which sound like Jethro Tull, which in my book is a good thing. I wouldn't say it's a concept album, but they're sort of all sorts of intertwined themes about mysticism and magicians and sorcerers, obviously, but it is a great album. It really is superb. I think there's one track here, I can't remember what it is. It The Wildflowers or Willow the Way? Well, one of them, it just could be Jethro Tull. It could be Ian Anderson singing it. It's fantastic. It's a really great album. So this is Sorceress by Opeth.
Last year of 2016.
And we're back again. Southern Rock. Nice. So this is Blackberry Smoke again. And whereas I quite like, I would always say the Whippoorwill is better. This is a great album as well. If only for the fact, I think it's the last bit of music that Greg Allman guested on before he sadly passed away. He's on a couple of tracks, I believe, on this. But as an album starter, Waiting for the Thunder must be... They did it on purpose because it's just Skinnered and the Allmans at their best. The lick at the opening. I mean, it's got one of the best album starters. Waiting for the Thunder. But all of this here. Free on the Wing, which is the track with Greg on it, Greg Allman. But this is a great album. And when they played that in Wembley, the crowd went ballistic. It's just a great song.
So we only have one 2017 album, which is...
And what an album. I really tried to steer clear of picking live albums, but as we go into this decade, and I listened to this, this is certainly one of the reasons why I wanted to see them live when I heard this album. This is Tedeschi Trucks Band, and this is a live from the Fox in Oakland. It's wonderful. It's got a load of very good stuff on this, but it explores different avenue. And I was talking earlier on about the sort of the Middle East and Far East, Indian kind of feel, sitar feel. There's a cover versions here. I mean, Bird on a Wire, which I love, but also I think there's a Beatles cover as well. Yeah, Within Without You, which is on the obviously Sgt. Pepper's, which is great, and that introduces obviously all the. It's a George Harrison song which introduced all the sort of like sitar kind of music. Yeah. It's just a great album. It's a great album by a band who are confident, who are professional, who are tight, who got everything. And so this album has to be there. And this is live from the Fox in Oakland. And this is the Tedeschi Trucks Band.
Next is probably the biggest out of all of the years for...
Strange. So it was the year pre-lockdown. The year before lockdown.
This is 2019.
So this is the keyboards player from Fish, Paige McConnell, and this is his solo album. Well, when I say solo, his band with Ojel Burbridge, from the Dead and Company, and this is very good. It explores different jazz and reggae themes as well. But as you'll probably see, because he's a keyboards player, a lot of it's quite electronic as well. So this is Vida Blue and the Crossing Lines. Government Mule. This is another really good album for late Mule. Revolution Come, Revolution Goes. It's got some good stuff on this. Stone Cold Rage is fantastic, and also. Travelling Tune, I like that. It's just a lot of great sort of music by a wonderful group and a wonderful guitarist in Warren Haynes. So this is Government Mule, Revolution Come, Revolution Go.
This is probably my favourite of the
decade.
Where is it? Yeah.
Ooh. So this is the latest album by Tool.
And I think it's very good. Just want to point out, I know a lot of people didn't actually like this album. because they thought it was rushed, or, you know, they felt like they had to put something out. I think it's very good.
It is indeed.
And I think that it's not really that much of, like, it's like if you took 10,000 Days in Lateralis and, like, a bit of, like, the early Tool and put it into one album. That's what this is.
Yeah, it's very good. Once again, as I was saying earlier, but this is a group who, in my book, inhabit that pantheon of great progressive rock bands. This is Fear Inoculum by Tool. So this is Movies by Way's Blood.
Titanic Rising.
Sorry. So this is Titanic Rising by Way's Blood. This woman, well, she goes under the name of Way's Blood, has got the most amazing voice. We first heard this when we were listening to the radio coming back home from somewhere, and Neve and I just looked at ourselves and went, oh, this is just incredible. I think we got home, I think on a flash I bought it. There's so many good stuff, but you know, obviously the track Movies, which is I think it was a single, but fantastic. But it's all so beautiful and ambient and lovely, and it's so fantastically crafted. So this is Titanic Rising by Way's Blood. So we're now going back to England and the Mercury Prize winner here. I think people know that I quite like American music. There are obvious exceptions, and one of these is this young gentleman from North London, Michael Kiwanuka. This is the album Kiwanuka. This is, I listened to it, it was just great. But what I liked in there, there's just everything in there. There's Curtis Mayfield, there's Marvin Gaye, there's Dylan, there's almost like Klaus Schulze ambient German expressive music. There's like the Grateful Dead in it, you know. This is a guy who's made an album that is mind-blowingly good. And you know, when he got this prize, it's so richly deserved. And if he carries on this vein, he will be an utter legend. He is a really great artist, and Britain should be proud to have someone like him. So this is Michael Kiwanuka.
And lastly, of 2019.
So Ghosts of the Forest by Trey, a Trey Anastasio band. This is again sort of very proggy and not at all Fish-like, but it's got lots of different things in it as well. And I mean, I like the first time I listened to it, you know, I just really loved it, and I think this is an underrated album, but one that I like a hell of a lot. So this is what Ghosts of the Forest by the Trey Anastasio band.
Lastly, just to finish up with 2020, because there's only one from 2020 here.
Oh dear, I'm gonna maybe we'll get a comeback for this one. Taylor Swift's Folklore.
I think you should inform people that this isn't like the whole weird phase that she did, where she sold out.
Yeah, well, you know, there's that phase where she made loads of money, this, that and the other. Now she's so wealthy that she can now go back to what she's good at, which is writing songs which are brilliant, writing songs that are soul-searching, brilliant voice, brilliant musician. She got a band called The National to play with her. There's also Bon Iver on here as well. So there's some quality musicians. And of course, it's a testament that she's just picked the right musicians. She's written some fabulous songs on this album. And it's so un-Taylor Swift-like. It's like Taylor Swift when she was like a country singer and everything. It's not country rock, though. It's more folk, and there are dark bits in it, and again, light bits in it. But it's like, to me, Taylor Swift's coming of age of saying, look, I want to throw all Harry Styles and One Direction behind me. I want to put out an album that is genuinely quality. And this album is genuine quality. So this is Folklore by Taylor Swift.
And that concludes the video today. So Dad mentioned something about a contest. Would you like to
Yes.
explain that?
Okay, right. First of all, I'll tell you what the prize is. A prize is going to be a mint condition copy of the classic modern prog album Fear of a Blank Planet by Porcupine Tree. It's completely mint. It will come
Unplayed.
out and that will be the prize.
The question.
And the question is, the t-shirt I'm wearing today,
What does it say?
it says Family Berserker. It's part of a song. What I want to know is from you, we need to have what the name of the song is, what the album it comes from is, the studio album, and who the band is, who wrote it. That's it. So this is the t-shirt.
And the first person to comment it will win it.
The first person, yeah, okay.
So I can keep track of that because I can see on my my comment line. So the first person who gets it right will be in contact.
So it's called Family Berserker, the t-shirt.
Cool.
Okay.
Right. So anyway,
We're
that's
done.
the end of the video. That's the end of the decade rundowns from the 60s up until the 2010s. So what is your favourite decade of all time for music and why? If you had to pick one.
If you really pushed me to pick one, probably the 70s, early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, because basically my age, and growing up listening to this music as I was in my teenage years, going to see bands and this, that, and the other, and I just think the plethora of albums and songs that came out, in sort of, particularly sort of like 67 to 75, 76, were to me the crowning glory of it. But every decade, as we've shown, every decade throws up its wonderful albums and wonderful pieces of music.
Definitely.
And let's just hope the 2020s can as well.
Definitely.
Made a strong start with that album by Taylor Swift. I'll tell you that now.
Yeah. Alright, so next week I'm going to have to think of a video idea. I think I've got one in mind, but I'll have to talk to you about that closer to the time. And yeah, see you guys next week. I'll see you guys on Monday, because I'll be doing a video about my favourite prog albums of 1971.
Ooh, interesting.
So there's a lot there, so maybe that'll be a two-parter. I don't know. So see you guys on Monday, and you'll see Dad next Saturday.
Yeah. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.